And I want to start by going back to my question about Prive Group being, the latest in a string of F&B closures. What's really going on? Like, is it a rent problem, as people always say? They point the fingers like, oh, landlords raising rent, but is it that?
Ooh.
I'm looking at you, Bjorn.
Okay.
You're in the industry.
Okay.
So
I'll tell you what, rent is a big part of what we pay for, but rent is also something that we can choose. So there's ways to walk away from unfavorable agreements without even signing the tenancy agreement, But if you are a new brand and you really want certain kind of visibility, you want to be on this street or you want to be in that mall, then I suppose you could fall into the trap of, signing up with a landlord who's not quite in line with your vision or in line with a long-term win-win situation for the both of you. So rent is just one of the problems, but I guess there are other problems, and rent tends to be the one that's easily the scapegoat. People tend to just scapegoat everything on rent. There's so much more problems than just rent.
So how much of a percentage of your business, because you run 2 restaurants here, how much of it is actually part of how much you pay each month?
So I've run 7 restaurants in Singapore and another 5 overseas. Compared to overseas, rents in Singapore are much, much higher. In Singapore, depending on the kind of concept you're going for, if you're a small independent sort of restaurant, you're in a shop house along a street or what, you might be paying up to 15% of your sales on rent. But if you're on a shopping mall, where rents are a little bit higher, you're working on a model where you have a base rent plus a percentage of your sales that contributes to the landlord, you might be looking at an overall of 20-25% of rent. So I've done consulting for various clients as well who are happy to pay up to 25% of their sales in rent, and cut back on other things. But I myself try to keep my rent below 12% of my sales in my own businesses.
So what else is driving this problem of businesses closing down, if you say it's not just a rent problem?
Well, the ones that are closing because of rents, I believe them. They are closing because of rents. So maybe what happens is that the rent they signed up for was okay with them, but they didn't lock in a cap on the increase. And this is what's seen very frequently, right? So I had a good friend from many years ago who had a very well-known bar in town, in Chinatown. And I won't mention her or her bar, just to keep them anonymous, but they were paying $11,000 in rent every month, which was a very fair rate, right? The rents usually work in Singapore on a something plus something basis, so 3 plus 3, for example. What that means is that you lock in this rate for 3 years, and then after 3 years is up, you are given the opportunity to extend for another 3 years. This is what 3 plus 3 means. It could be a 4 plus 4, it could be a 2 plus 2, but 3 plus 3 in that case, she paid $11,000 for the first 3 years, and at the next 3 years, she was subject to market rate upon renewal if she wanted to renew, right? So when her first 3 years was up, the landlord came in and said, I want $33,000 now.
That's 3 times.
That's 3 times, exactly.
But so where's this basis coming from? Because Eunice, you're shaking your head. When you hear this, what are you thinking of?
This happened even during COVID, right? Like during a pandemic, I had so many people.
Before.
Yeah, who were saying that, instead of trying to help us, right, you're increasing our rents, and then everyone was dealing with all these other costs, right? So it's manpower was a very big issue, still is a big issue, and so I also think part of the reason why you have many closings is because, like you mentioned, right, if I'm there for 3 plus 3, I feel like last time maybe people will try to just hang in there for another 3, the latter 3, if they find some way to, make the rent work somehow, do their math differently.
His friend's bar, the rent went up by 3 times.
Yeah,
where did that? And there are people who will pay.
Who will pay.
Okay.
Business owners who will pay.
Yeah.
She had to. I'll tell you why she had to. And this is one thing that I think that everyone listening would be, why would she pay that plus 33, right? I'll tell you why. Because people don't break even on their investment in the first 3 years in Singapore. Okay? When you've opened a business, you put in investment into renovation, facilities, services, equipment, and, things like your architect fee, your designer fees, all your licensing and all that. And usually the break-even horizon in Singapore is 3 to 4 years, meaning that first of 3 to 4 years, whatever profits you make are there to pay back for your investment. Now, if your lease goes up, or if your lease sees that plus sometime before you break even, you cannot just pack up and go. She was not agreeable with the 33,000, but had she packed up and gone at the time, she hadn't broken even. So where
your
can she go
cycle,
to?
She will have to start again.
She had to start again, but lost all the money that she put in
Yeah.
there. So she had no choice but to double down and open 7 days a week, open for lunch and dinner, find other means of delivery, and now start to just work for the landlord. Because if she didn't do that, all her investment money, the stuff that you cannot take with you is sunk. So a lot of people who don't know, they'll just ask, why just move lah? Right? You cannot just move. It doesn't work that way. Once your investment is sunk, you're stuck there for 5-6 years.